where you explained the importance, visual significance and importance of bicycles and shoes. And I went, what? Bicycles and shoes? That's it? And you said, watch for bicycles, watch for shoes. Now, after that, I started watching for bicycles and shoes, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, you don't see that. And so that's why I think the purpose of this show, if done correctly, is that afterwards, everybody is looking for the proverbial bicycles and shoes. So
that's even like there's an alleged mass shooting like in Buffalo or whatever. I call it the Buffalo bullshit shooting, where you had like bum, 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 and then the color code. And then at the memorial services inside the church, there's a massive big cross, yellow and blue. Have you ever seen a blue and yellow cross inside a church? Like the size of Manhattan? No, you have not. That's the way they do it, in the background. But it's a matter of also getting into the subconscious of us, subliminal messages, repeated. If you think that this doesn't work, ask yourself Coca-Cola, or look at Coca-Cola. Why is Santa wearing a red and white outfit? It's Coca-Cola. They took over that in the 40s. You know, the color codes, the logos, the slogans, this thing. So colors, yeah. And then I'm going to go over to bicycles and shoes and baby cars and also foldable chairs they've gone to now. So over the years, one of the things that I noticed was that there's like hundreds of shoes lying away all over the place. Crime scenes, alleged mass shootings, drive-by shootings, anything connected to death. And I have this massive research vault. It's almost like more than 5 terabytes that is for sale as well if you feel like supporting me, because this is being erased from humanity. These things do not exist anymore. YouTube, Google, it's being erased as we speak. So anyway, the shoes. I started noticing shoes and I was like, I didn't understand it at all, but it was just like they were lying all over the place. And normally it was Nike shoes, and photographers, especially from Associated Press, Reuters, and Getty's Images, seemed to be really fascinated by these shoes because they had this tendency of taking all of these shoes where the horror was in the background and the shoe was in the foreground. I thought that is bizarre, because also you had to almost lie on your stomach to take photos like that, to get that angle. Why would anyone do that? So I had a folder with, that I just named shoes, very original. And I started filling it with shoes from all over the world. And I was like, what is going on with the shoes? And then I started noticing a lot of alleged victims was without one shoe or without 2 shoes, but not the shoes that were lying there. It was not the same. And these shoes were like most of the time brand new, and also with the, like undone. So I don't know. The last time I was shot at, I didn't wait and say, I'm going to take off my shoes so I can move faster. That's not the normal thing. Then you have take Google Dayton, Ohio, a mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio. There are like 24 pairs of trainers in a parking lot piled in a big pile of shoes and cordon off area. That's a mass shooting, they say. Please explain to me, how did that thing happen? How did these shoes end up there? Were the victims vaporized by some laser gun? Or was it Scotty beam me up? Or was somebody throw, how did it happen? No. Is that a scene of a mass shooting? No, it's a scene of a lot of shoes piled up in a big heap. So I really started, there's something bizarre going on with the shoes. So I did different shows. One of them called The Soulless Shoes of Death, because it was always connected to death, and it spread all over the place. And so I started getting from all over the world people sending me photos of shoes. And then I was contacted by a Freemason who said, you're doing great, but you don't understand the value of these shoes and the meaning of them. I said, please enlighten me, because I'm sort of, I don't know what's going on. And then he said, well, one shoe off, it's a Freemasonic ritual. One shoe off means that person is doing it voluntarily, just like in their own rituals inside their not very nice headquarters and stuff. And two shoes up means homage to the sacred space where this ritual is carried out. Okay, I thought, well, that's a new one. Because also what I noticed is that ever since the alleged Holocaust, we've had shoes being connected to death. I've been around in these alleged death camps and stuff like that, museums, being horrified myself of these piles of shoes where they said, that's the proof of 1,000,000 people died, that they died here. When you look at it with a forensic type of mind, you see, no, it's a pile of shoes. It has nothing to do with as a proof that anyone died, but it is a symbol of death. Then you had in the Korean War, you had in the Vietnam War, you had in the Balkan War, you had in the Six-Day War, shoes, piles of shoes, death, death, death. Don't question it. Look at them. The shoes are there. Who are you to even put a question mark in? And I don't know. The Six-Day War, you look at that. It's out in the middle of the desert. Israel and Egypt were fighting, and they won. And the Egyptian soldiers escaped in panic, leaving behind the boots in the hundreds. I don't know if you live in a desert area. Please walk out bare feet. Tell me, how does it feel? Do you feel like taking off your shoes or put them back on? I would say your shoes will be baking within 2.5 seconds. You would not do that. So why are the boots there? You got the expressions boot on the ground. You got all kinds of things around boots, shoes, boots. Anyway, so I was doing these shows, and then I did many shows with CIA whistleblower Cody Snodgrass, who for 20 years had been into Black Ops, but knows a lot about MK Ultra as well. And he said, I think there's a whole different level to the shoes than you were aware of. I said, please tell me. He said, when they break someone down to become an asset, an MK Ultra asset, the way they do it is they put this in poor individuals through absolute horror and hell. What they do is they torture them or they rape them or whatever. The idea is to get the individual in such a state of pain that the personality, it's almost like the soul is trying to escape the intense pain, and suddenly a secondary personality is created. It's really bizarre. You got two personalities, schizophrenia, but he has created, and you can get more than one. And so they found out, they've been doing these experiments since the 50s and onwards, that they could actually create that, but they needed a trigger so that they could switch between these personalities. It's called a trigger. So what they found out is if they kept showing the same symbol or play the same song, or I mean, it could be Mary Had a Little Lamb, or it could be an upside down Dalton or whatever, every time this person was being raped or tortured, in the end, there were no need for the torture anymore. There were no need for the rape anymore. It was enough just with the trigger. And you will see that in many Hollywood movies where you got like a car mechanic who's just going around with his daily work. He get a phone call, Mary had a little, suddenly he's an assassin. He goes into that and he's under their spell. So it's not something to underestimate. And so what Cody said, this is a theory. He doesn't know it for sure, but I really resonate with that. He says, since at least the Second World War, our minds have been connecting death with the symbol of the shoe. So in the end, if you see like here, horrible thing, shoe, horrible thing, shoe, horrible thing, shoe, you don't notice the shoe. You just look at the thing in the background. An airplane crash. Yeah, you see some smoke and some nothing else. And then like a sandal of a baby. And you think, oh my God, a baby has died. No, it's a sandal of a baby, and there's a smoke in the background. That's what you see. But your mind goes in. And I think nowadays, when most of us are in a state of the post-traumatic stress syndrome at all times, because humanity is like being hammered from all different directions, when you keep seeing the shoe, in the end, just like with the MK Ultra victims, you don't need this real thing. The trigger is enough. Like the Dayton, Ohio. Check that out. It's a pile of shoes. What was the symbol of the Las Vegas shooting? It was a pair of boots with the American flag on. What was the New York Times had on page 1 a photo of some ketchup and a shoe. That's it. You see, a mass shooting drive-by shooting in Baltimore. What's the? It's you see a shoe. There's nothing of the victim. There's nothing like that. So anyway,
Uvalde shooting too. The Uvalde shooting, not to interrupt, but the green Converse. It's just like
I know.
After your reporting, I saw the green Converse and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just like it's here we go again. Here we go again.
And that is in. I think I'm up to maybe 1,000 shoes, and then in came Matthew. Come on, Matthew, this is what you can get from me. I really used to like you. Really, this is not okay. You know, I don't know what good came out of it for you, but that is absolute. Also, Will Smith and Chris Rock and these type of things that are now playing in these games, not okay. Shame on you. So, and on the, like Matthew standing there laughing, saying, oh, the only way they could identify this girl was from the shoes. Was she totally blown to pieces? Why are there no stains on the shoes? I think it's his wife is sitting there with them in the lap. Very strong green color. I like that you pointed out. Very strong green color. That's the first time with a green color, except for Boris Johnson's tie, very green tie, when he came to Ukraine just before the whole thing started, with, I would say, the green color saying, go ahead, we're going ahead, So anyway, and what was the color of the photo of the dress of the victim that he holds up?
Purple.
Deep purple. Yeah. And it's not even of her in the age where she is now. It was as a little child. So you have so the shoes. So I pumped that out in the hundreds in interviews. I've done like 1,100 interviews, something like that now. And pumping it out. So these shoes have become sort of like a joke. People are making jokes about them everywhere. If you even go to the BBC website when something happens, people are pointing out the shoes, saying, come on, guys, this is ridiculous. So the fear grip is loosening around shoes. So I believe from around 2018, they were in a situation where they thought, oh my God, millions of people are becoming aware of what we're doing. Not good, and not good. We need to do something. So in 2018, they started swapping over to making a shift towards bicycles instead, because it needs to be something discreet, something that are subconscious. Like if they had been leaving like pink umbrellas everywhere. Every time something happened, there was a pink umbrella. People will start noticing and say, listen, there's a pink umbrella again and a pink umbrella. It needs to be something discreet that just affects your your subconscious and triggers it without you understanding. So a bus would work, or bicycles, baby cars, because also baby cars is very emotional. Oh, what's a baby? So, and now also they go cheap here, so they have foldable chairs. I'm going to come to that. So in 2018, they started to do the move over there. And one of the things, because they need headliners to get the information out there big time. So what was the headliner? It was George Bush Sr., bad boy, and bad boy. How did they do it? Well, his cardiologist was shot in Houston, inside the hospital area, in a drive-by shooting. Okay, fair enough. Well, the doctor was on a bicycle and the shooter was on a bicycle. And what the images from the crime scene was of the bicycle. Do you see what I'm saying here? Like when have you had a drive-by bicycle shooting before? It's like, and I love it. They always have these things with the names of the victims or people involved. There's very often a sexual, like a joke, almost like they're teasing us. But here his name was Dr. Hausknecht, but they said Dr. House Connect was the name of this doctor. I mean, I don't know if he even existed, but anyway, some of the other names I just want to say, like we had Annie Dick on Ass. That's a nice name for you. Annie Dick on Ass, huge dick in son. We had so many Cox, Joe Cox, Mark Cockburn, Ray Cockburn, Dick Cox. I mean, who would?
I'm starting to like these guys at NATO. They're cracking me up a little bit. I mean, I'm connecting with this inappropriate humor.
Oh, I know.
How about Wayne Sexton from the?
I was just gonna say.
Sorry, let me just feel like that one was just crazy.
Caesar psyop.
Do you remember
I
that
mean,
like 3 or
it's-
4 years ago, the Trump guy was like psyop, but it was Caesar psyop.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but now
Primo.
Crimo, but no. But nowadays, they for some reason they started going to the Wild West. For some years, it was the end of the Second World War, where all of these dates were connected to dates in 1945 and 46. Now, for some reason, they've started with the Wild West. I think maybe also to point. So you had like recently the Baltimore, I think it was in Baltimore, the subway shooting there, absolute bullshit crap. But his name was Frank James. Frank James.
New York. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
Jesse
New York.
James, Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse James' brother, Frank James. Then you have another one, Pearl Hart. Pearl Hart was another. She was the daughter of Belle Starr, I think, but also, now maybe I'm mixing them together. Pearl Hart at least was one of the outlaws in the Wild West, one of the few women. Then now we have Robert E. Crimo, but Robert E. Right away, your subconscious go Robert E. Lee. You know that's how they play you. So anyway, so we start and one of the things also they've started to do. It started, as far as I know, with. Did you hear a lot about the boys that got stuck in a cave in Thailand? There was a whole global media coverage of this group of boys and all the time when this happened, one of the main images that was pumped out was of a Nike football shoe, massive logo, and in the background, there's bicycles, right? When I saw it, like, whoa, come on. So, and at the whole time they were talking about it. Oh my God, somebody should make a movie of this. Oh, it's almost like watching a movie. Oh, it's like they're almost following a script. Yeah, exactly. And so that whole thing totally staged. The boys didn't even come from Thailand. They were drugged down. They were flown in. They were flown out. They said that they had to put them under to get them out, so they couldn't speak, they couldn't make any comments, and so on. Now Netflix is making a big one about that whole thing. I pointed out years ago, saying it's going to come. You had Clint Eastwood that I used to love with like $1 Million Baby, beautiful movie. What the hell happened, Clint? I mean, really, you're really old now. Shouldn't you die with dignity? No, he made like a movie called The 9:13 Train to Paris. That is based on a false flag, low budget, absolute crap operation. I will now give you the scenario. Okay, on a train 913 towards Paris, you had like 3 US Marines. That is normally not the case in Paris. But anyway, they were on the train. So one of them passed the bathroom on the train and he heard the sound of a Kalashnikov trying to be loaded. Okay, but he had been in Afghanistan, so he knew the sound of a AK-47, but it was jamming. So this Muslim terrorist had tried to go into the bathroom and load his AK-47, but it was messing with it, was jamming. So this US Marine, he stood and waited outside, waited for the Muslim terrorist to appear. And then the Muslim terrorist appeared and they jumped him. And there was a lot of boom, boom, boom. And oh my God, drama. It was amazing. And the US won. Can you believe it? All 3 of them jumped him. So what happened? I mean, I exposed that, put it apart years ago. Now Clint Eastwood has made a movie where the crisis actors are playing themselves in the movie. I mean, wake me up. What is going on? Alice in Wonderland. So here they have, because Hollywood is running out of ideas. It's been recycled 100 times. All the good stories have been told so many times. But one of the best genres are based on a true story, whatever that means. These are the things that catches the audience. So here now they start creating like the cave thing in Thailand. That was a stage thing to get the media thing and pump out the fear and get some good stories out there and make an extra billion in a media production, a film production. They've started doing this. Yes, please.
And I would like to say, since you mentioned the Nike thing, let's talk about the marketing, the branding impact of this too. On the down low, Nike getting involved and saying, "How much money do you want for this?" We've got a budget for advertising. So we're watching. We know that the worldwide consumer in general, but American consumer in particular is tuning out advertising quite a bit. Kind of overwhelmed with it. But what if it was part of the storyline itself? What if it was embedded advertising that just became a sort of off the record Nike co-branding with NATO on one of these events that winds up becoming a Netflix thing? They're all wearing Nikes, and the whole...
All they have to do is sponsor one junior high program nationwide. Say they are. Hey, we're going to contribute X amount of shoes a year to these, and then that justifies it on their budget. It does. Nobody asks any questions. Nobody cares.
It's much more advanced than that. Nike is not just a normal company. It is really dark, really, really dark. But you got companies like Coca-Cola. You got companies like I don't even want to say it. The one with the coffee that Bill Gates' dad was part of, or Bill Gates himself. These type of companies are there, and I just want to point out also, Google Maps are really into helping the market as well, because you can see that, or they know that when something happens, millions of people will check it out in different ways, also on Google Maps. So when something happens, go down on Google Maps and look for yourself what is there. So, for instance, do you remember there was a guy in a yellow RV that blew himself up in Nashville, Tennessee? That was, by the way, where they left the clue towards Capitol Hill. I pointed at Capitol Hill out 5 days before it happened, saying Capitol Hill on Michael Jacob's show. And so you go down, and exactly where this car is said to have exploded after several hours of, please evacuate the area, there will be an explosion. Okay, so it just happened spontaneously, not. And the shots were fired through the PA system on top of it. But anyway, you go down and you look at that exact spot, and there's a Coca-Cola truck. Absolutely, polished and beautiful. And you could say, well, it was just an accident. It just passed when the Google camera. No, there are orange cones placed around it. It is there, stopping traffic, being taken photos of. So you have the Buffalo bullshit shooting. You go down, you find the exact supermarket, top supermarket. That, by the way, the shooter drove 4 hours twice to go there to be able to shoot black people while shooting white people on the recording. Amazing. And shoes left inside the shop. There were the only people there. The victims were there. And then shoes spread out on the floor. I don't know about these things, but normally when I get shot, I don't fly out of my shoes. The shoe stays on. It's like, it's not a natural thing. At the Queen's Day massacre in Holland, there were even Wellingtons, rubber boots left in the street. Normally, you're like two people that have to pull it off.
No. Only you haven't been listening to Joe Biden. According to him, a 9mm can blow a hole in your lung. So imagine what a larger caliber gun could. I mean, you had the fact that there's even boots left. It's a miracle. It is. Surely we should take this as a sign from, the benevolent state that they do have everything under control, as a matter of fact. Because golly, those little bullets, but big holes.
I stand corrected. Yes, of course you're right. So anyway, so we go to the top supermarket, go there, it's still there. You go down to the entrance, and right in the entrance on Google Maps, there's a shoe. There's a shoe right there. So anyway, so they're trying to make this transfer. And so what happened? You had right after the bullshit shooting, then the Uvalde thing happened. Uvalde, the Buffalo shooting is almost a copycat of the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand. Please look at NATO. You have to see it from a point of NATO, or there's this secret alliance that was created after the Second World called Five Eyes, Nine Eyes, and 14 Eyes. These are the things where these countries are working under the surface together. We don't see it. They are. And so you can see this is how it's done. They're being transported in big C-130 military planes to U.S. Air Force bases or NATO Air Force bases, crisis actors, directors, makeup artists, crowds, because they need crowds, sometimes experts on pyrotechnics. It's a film set, a mobile film set that is being moved around and then taken from these airports where they land after dark in buses to the place where they set up for a security drill, active shooter drill the day before or a few days before, where they rehearse. That's when all the good photos are taken, the high quality things, because they had to make sure that they got these images and also the footage. I call it the catwalk of death. These very blurry videos of people trying to save other people. You never see and the quality is like a VHS copy of a Hungarian porn movie in the 70s. It's so bad. You can't see anything. You cannot see anything. But that's when all of these things are taken. And by the way, I want to point out, if you worry about terror attacks and mass shooting, you don't have to worry on a rainy day. It's never on a rainy day or a gray day, because they need the same type of sky in the background more than one day at a time, because they blend the footage from the drill rehearsal with the so-called live footage. So you have a mixture, because if you control the media outlet, you can control what we think happened. That is key in these operations. So they always choose like a blue sky or almost blue sky so that they can mix these two without us noticing. But this is where I go in and check the angle of the shadows and the clouds, where the hell did the cloud go? And so that's how you can see it. I think, Monica, you wanted to say something.
Is it just NATO? And if so, like, is Putin a good guy? Why every once in a while something will leak that, like the Victoria Nuland call over the Ukraine coup? I obviously think that was Putin who had that and leaked it to show that they did the coup in 2014. It was US. But I wonder, I get confused sometimes, because it seems like Putin plays along with some of these things, doesn't out ISIS as being like a US operation, or I actually think Edward Snowden was a CIA agent, like, still, and he doesn't out that. Like, do you think Putin's a good guy? You think he's just a guy who watches out for his own interests, or do they do it too? Like, did they do some people say they do it, like in Georgia and stuff like that. What do you have an opinion on that?
I would say, welcome to the world of the CIA and these assets. It's smoke and mirrors. It's in a labyrinth, inside an enigma, inside with smoky corridors. It's like that. Confusion is the name of the game. So I don't want to jump into that, because that's a whole different. I don't trust the war in Ukraine at all. The way we see it, absolutely zero. Please watch the movie Wag the Dog. That will explain to you what is actually going on. But you asked about Putin. Putin is a question mark in my world, because he was one of the young global leaders in the 90s.
I'm not sure about that. Did that even exist?
Yes. God, yeah.
They scrubbed
was the timing quite right?
They said they scrubbed
totally
it.
confident, Charlie, that he was a
No.
global leader?
No, I'm not.
So there's
Can I just say that this is an area, let's not go into there, because that's a whole show on its own.
Yeah.
But Putin, I spoke to an MI6 agent many years ago, and he said, way before Putin was really on the screen or sort of on the stage, he said that he got quite confused, because when he was being trained as a young agent in England, one of the other agents there was Vladimir Putin with MI6, but also he's also said to have been KGB. He's also said to have been a young global leader as Zelensky. And so what is going on? That is the key. But then you have people that are being prepared at a young age, like the Shah of Iran, where they were a puppet to start with, but then they're given power. And then after a while, some of them say, well, why should I listen to you who gave me this power? You can just fuck off. I'm
Then
going
they
to
get
do what.
assassinated.
and then they get assassinated, or they get set up, or they get used, like Saddam Hussein, who was an asset, and then suddenly he had to be demonized, or they wanted to demonize him to turn him into an enemy. And then you had more than one Saddam Hussein, like with these different, it's like confusion is the name of the game. But I just want to go back to the bicycles. So we need headliners. So what better than presidents? So then you have like Joe Biden comes bicycling on a bicycle and falls over. And suddenly you have the whole world talking about Biden. For one thing, old, can we trust him? He was on a bicycle. What happened? The shoe got stuck in the wheel, so he fell over. You had game hosts shows and talk shows. Everybody's making fun of the bicycle. Suddenly bicycles are on the mind of millions of people. They don't even know it. And then you have, let's see here. Then we had in the US, you have to see that these things are coordinated. I ask you, I just made a big show, a 3-hour one with Age of Truth TV, where I have this PowerPoint where I just pointed out, look at that. I mean, it's unbelievable. You had first, let me see in the right order, bullshit shooting, then Uvalde, Biden fell. Then you had the Norwegian, I think the Norwegian gay parade shooting, they say, gay parade. They had nothing to do with gays. But we had this alleged mass shooting in Oslo, NATO again. The same owners of the buildings as in the metro attack in Brussels, NATO's headquarters in 2016. The exact same Olaf Thon is the guy. Anyway, so here we have, they say that this guy went around with an automatic weapon. No photos of nothing. They haven't released the names of the victims. That's nothing. But there are bicycles all over the place. Bicycles in the forefront. The images of the police, whatever SWAT teams in the background. What is in the foreground? Bicycles. All over the place, bicycles. Okay, then we move to the Highland Park shooting that you had on very specific date, Independence Day. Okay, so also the current theme, there are two different themes. You have one is something happens and then the FBI or the investigators, they come out and they say, we've had this guy on our radar for some time, but we couldn't do something. We couldn't do anything. I mean, we live in a democracy. We are law-abiding police officer. We couldn't do anything. And now we have this pile of dead bodies over there. Problem. So if you could just please be kind enough to give us the power to arrest on suspicion only, we would not have piles of bodies like that over there. Problem, reaction, solution. That is what they keep pumping up. We had him on the radar. Unfortunately, dead people. So what they're talking about is Minority Report. And I tell you, if it's like arrest on suspicion only, I see 5 people here that would be taken away pretty fast. Because
we have pre-crime. That's something that happened as of January 1st of 2021. Bill Barr set it up after there were 2 mass shootings back to back. He called the shot several months before. As soon as the 2 mass shootings happened, one down in like Beto O'Rourke's hometown or something like that. And then the other one, it wasn't even a mass shooting. It was just the next day and a couple of people got shot and it was a brother and a sister and a boyfriend or something. And they made it sound like it. Trump comes out and goes, we've got to be able to have the resources to scour the darkest corners of the internet to stop these incidents before they happen. And they announced that it was going to go. A guy named Daniel Baker is currently the longest serving inmate for pre-crime currently. Although we don't know what that's going to look like going forward. But there's a number of people that have been arrested for it as it is. I had something else, but go ahead.
Anyway,
It'll come back around.
So that's one they want. And now there's also the mental health part where they want to be able to act where people are, not feeling good and then going out killing people. Once again, piles of dead bodies. And now they're starting to use people that believe in conspiracy theories as mental ill. which is on, you see, on a global scale, that's what they try to do. And combine the two, then you have, we will be able to arrest somebody that the neighbor can pick up and say, well, I listened, this guy was, he was watching a movie about the JFK assassination. You better come and pick him up, you know? So it's scary, scary, but they're combining these two now. So, and also they add in a little bit of it about being radicalized Islam, but it doesn't really work anymore. Islam is not the key theme at the moment. What they do instead is that they have, instead of this shooter being Islamic, because that is worn out, that theme, they have a person with dual citizenship, very often connected to two countries, like German, Afghani, or French, Tunisian, or Danish, Norwegian, whatever. So you combine it, get the emotional impact in more than one nation. Also, the victims are very often from different nations as well, so that you've got these nations involved as well emotionally. So, I lost the thread. But anyway, so we had Biden going down, poof. And then you had the Highland Park shooting. Here we come from bicycles over to bicycles of children and baby cots. Check out the photos from the Highland Park shooting. They are all a psychological operation. Every single one of them is packed with kids, bikes, the American flag, gay colors, baby cots, and chairs that have been foldable and thrown in the middle of the street. And then in the background, you got the Ukrainian blue and yellow and blue, Sweden, Kazakhstan in the background. It's all over. And you got the police officers walking around like, oh my God, the violence was so horrible. Independence Day. But also you have one photo where you got the plastic, what do you call it? The cordon off plastic thing that the police are using. They tied it in like a yellow ribbon, you know, the symbol of the yellow ribbon that people are walking around with. What is that? It's for, as far as I know, it's very often used for support of people with suicidal thoughts or psychiatric people with psychiatric needs, this yellow ribbon, and also dead soldiers being brought back. So let me see, then right after that, we had a mass shooting in Copenhagen, they say. This guy was psychiatrically sick. He was walking around with a rifle in a totally empty supermarket and allegedly shooting people. But what he was saying, he was recorded. He's saying, it's not real. It's not real. He was shouting, it's not real. It's not real. Anyway, so they kept, there were photos of shoes, once again, massive shoes. And they kept saying he had been looking for psychiatric help, but there was no one there. There was nobody that could help him. And now we have all of these dead bodies over there. So the theme is the same. Look, Highland and then Denmark. Now Sweden, right after this happened, you have, there's a week every year on an island called Gotland, where people can meet politicians, top politicians and so on. Everybody mingle and so on. It's a famous week. So here we had, just before the speech of Bilderberger, Annie Lööf, who the elite have really tried to push as the next leader of Sweden. Bad girl. Anyway, so she was just about to give her speech when a woman was murdered in a street just like there, in a side street, very easily controlled, where the crowd was looking at her, and suddenly there was this turmoil, boom, 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 boom. And she was stabbed by this guy, but the police jumped him right away and hooded him. They brought a bag and hooded the guy before anyone could see him. Have you ever seen anyone get hooded, except in like Hollywood movies with kidnapped victims? No, they had a black bag over the head and pulled him off. So this woman that was murdered there officially, who was she? She was the one that coordinated psychiatric treatment for all of Sweden. What are the chances? And right next to where she was murdered, there's a shoe. So where was she murdered? She was murdered at, they say, right outside a hotel that is called Donner Hotel. And Donner is a very famous Finnish family that lives in Sweden. So you have suddenly, and Sweden and Finland is right now being pushed to join NATO. And so very often also they have these movie productions that are there that are being made for like a year or two beforehand, and they're going to be released exactly on the date when these things happen. We had the bow and arrow attack crap operation in NATO Norway, where right on the day that it said that this guy was walking around with a bow and arrow, killing people in a supermarket. And so the movie that was just about to be released was about a guy walking around with a bow and arrow shooting people in a supermarket. I wonder, this is interesting. So when this happened in Sweden, when also pointed toward Finland, I looked for attack on Finland because I think it can happen any minute now, you know. So there's a movie called Attack on Finland. Isn't that interesting? And it was released on the 1st of July. Backed by, I think it's Universal Pictures. This is a major production, which is also happening on Independence Day. Highland Park shooting, Independence Day. But here, it was, they kidnapped the president and there was a whole bomb. So anyway, I've been ranting on for a while.
No, that's
Well,
great. That's great. That's great stuff.
They're using the same tactics, even this, like the 1985 Belgium Gladio random grocery store shootings there are being recycled back into Buffalo. You know, with there's not even they don't even have the care to mix it up. They're giving us replays. You know?
Reruns.
They're still using Jeffrey Pyatt and Victoria Nuland in Ukraine. Victoria Nuland was in Sri Lanka 2 weeks before the Sri Lankans started going like
Seriously.
full color revolution there. But yeah, I mean,
Speaking
It's-
of Ukraine, it's just if you ever Google, I remember as soon as you said about the shoes, MH17, that whatever that
that's
was all about. The shoes were everywhere. I remember thinking like, did anyone get their feet blown off or just their shoes? Like why is it just shoes everywhere? Baby shoes, Hello Kitty shoes. I was like, what? the
and they
heck?
just picked up all of the set and half the extras from the Syria operation going back to 2011 for Ukraine. It's the exact same propaganda. It's the exact, they almost brought out the exact same little like Aleppo kid. They did the incubator babies thing from the first Iraq war, where they were like, oh, they bombed a maternity ward. It wheeled the woman out, but she had this like beautiful homemade knit blanket as a stretcher because it was, you know, just the poor beleaguered war-torn people of Ukraine. And then you find out that it really wasn't a maternity ward. It was housing mercs.
There was that bright pink that she was covered. I mean, I don't think it was exactly magenta, but in the center of the thing, it was all black and dark. And it was like the burned out maternity thing. And it was ridiculous because it had been emptied of pregnant women and stuff. But just front and center on the Wall Street Journal, it's all dark. And then that just a bright blanket right in the middle.
Yeah.
But I love this that you're from now on, after hearing this, you now are going to be viewing the world differently.
We're
Like
looking
the
for
Beider
bicycles.
Meinhof effect, right?
You're going to be Dammegarding.
Yep, exactly. You know, one of the things that was pointed out to me recently that I was like, that really came up, that I was like, yeah, that's a good point. That really leads to some circumstantial evidence about all this, is the fact that like, you'd think after all these years, all these school shootings and mass shootings and everything, there would be like a parent, you know, from one of these shootings come forward, like being pro-gun, right? Like you think that there would be one of them coming forward and be like, hey, actually, you know what? No, we need, like, everybody should have guns. Like you don't see that ever. Every single time, each one of these narratives is controlled in such a way where the parents are always, the only view across the board is we need to get rid of all the guns. So that right there tells you it's all the narrative is orchestrated from start to finish on these, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just an
Yeah.
interesting observation.
Yeah.
I had. Yeah.
You know, like they say, if it was random, it would go in our favor at least once,
Exactly.
but it just never does.
Exactly.
Always is the same agenda.
You know, when you see, I mean, when something natural happens, you will have a discussion, you will have a debate. Some will think this, some will think that, you know, like that. Then when there are orchestrated events and coordinated operations, like the pulling out of Russia, when all of these big companies said on go, everybody was pulling out. That is a coordinating military operation organized through the World Economic Forum, I would say, that just pulled the rug out of Russia. You don't, and not one mainstream media outlet has said, maybe there's something we should look into, question anything. Like, it's just Putin, bad boy, bad boy. That's it. And poor Ukraine. I'm not saying anything. I mean, I'm totally against wars ever, but look at what's going on. And Ukraine is a very interesting place. These biolabs that was there big time. What happened with them? They were transferred to Sweden and still active. Sweden is a really, really bizarre place in a lot of these things, and Swedes as well. There's some handpicked people that keep appearing.
Yeah. So like I grew up in Oregon, right? In Oregon. And like the last 10 years I've been in Eugene, which the town right next to it is a town called Springfield, which Thurston High School, which is where the Kip Kinkle, like one of the original school shootings took place. Right. And so like I know lots of people that were technically there, you know what I mean? And so I was on, I witnessed that. Also, I wanted to point this out, and this is just rewinding the clock way big time. So like Columbine was April 20th, 1996. And on 1999. My bad. But then in 1996 there was the Port Arthur massacre over in Australia, and that was the one that they used to legitimately disarm the entire population. You know what I mean? Like what are your thoughts on how that impacted the gun confiscation movement in Australia versus like what we're seeing today? And do you feel like this is driving towards disarmament, or do you think it's like a larger, more nefarious agenda going on?
Are you asking me?
I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, yes. Oh, yeah. I'd love to get your opinion, but anybody else. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yes. It is the same. And the same. You've seen every time a dictator has taken over, one of the first things they do is try to de-arm the population so that they can just go in, invade, rape, plunder freely. They're absolute super cowards. They're very afraid of facing, real resistance. They're really, that's why all of these things are happening in the US, because you're the only ones with guns. I mean, most of us do not have them at all. So in other countries, it's like in Sweden, for instance, you have knife attacks. So now they're trying to ban the knives. Soon it would be spoons and forks as well, or a hammer attack. They're trying to take away these things from us. But it absolutely backfired in their face, because they had this whole escalation of mass shootings, alleged mass shootings. I must say, I don't know of a real one. And I don't know of any real one. And I've looked into, I don't know how many. And the very first one that started was in Austin, Texas, up in the tower. This guy that even brought a compass up there, just to make sure that he knew where he was in the tower, and shooting there. That was the entrance point for SWAT teams. That event on its own was the thing that created SWAT teams and made that a legal thing. I mean, nowadays, if you grow carrots and the SWAT team knocks on your door, nobody reacts or collect rainwater. But I mean, in the old days, SWAT teams was something like really unusual.
There was a second incident that solidified SWAT teams as the norm, even in the smallest police areas. And that was the North Hollywood shootout. It was a bank robbery, and the bankers pinned down the cops, but that looked totally fishy to me. And I live in LA now. And when the anniversary comes around, they talk about it on the radio. I start laughing. I'm like,
I watched that live.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. And
I watched that live. I was living in Manhattan Beach at the time. Yeah. 97 when that happened.
So you must have had no suspicion whatsoever that it was anything but real.
I mean, it was wild.
Shocking. Yeah. Right. But now it's ridiculous. Now that you've been Dammegarded, you kind of, it's pretty obvious.
But
I gotta watch that though. And now I live down the street from Columbine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too far from Columbine. It's funny, Scott, you mentioned that, because I just did an episode where I reminded people of all of the common denominators of being SSRI drugs that these alleged shooters are on, right? Too. So there's this weirdness happening. If, I think that, there's school shootings that are, I don't know. I don't think it's a one size fits all type of deal, where there are some kids that go a bit crazy on the on the SSRI drugs and kind of lose their minds. But I also believe that they're being kind of managed into this.
Groomed. They're being
Well, that's the thing. The only commonality. It's not always SSRIs. It's not always an AR-15.
It's contact with the feds.
It's prior contact with the FBI. And they all go onto some gaming server and they are into a Discord server and they all get groomed by or various FBI agents for a year to 4 years. And then when they need them, one of them goes and gets activated. But the common thread in every case is prior contact with the FBI. And the FBI has been going nuts with behavioral experience. This is something that we've talked a lot about on the show. It's something that I would love to get you guys' opinions about, because I don't even think that you need MK Ultra as a program where you recruit people and you go take them into a basement at Harvard and you go drop some LSD into their eyeballs and show them some images. Because we've got that almost put into every child in the West's hands from birth, is that kind of desensitization and that kind of separation. You've got that. You've got the fact that like children are supposed to be different people at different times throughout the day, depending on who they're talking. You're kind of forcing that state onto people from infancy. By the time they get to junior high, where kids are arguably at their cruelest, that's an experiment almost, if not in MK Ultra, in, like, let's say like touch football torture or flag football torture. You're getting the basics down. You're learning the fundamentals of the game. You may not be, full pads and hitting, but you're learning how your body's supposed to move. You're getting the muscle memory built up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're telling us that they have the technology to implement red flag law. They're telling us that they have the technology to use artificial intelligence or machine learning or something in order to determine who is a potential threat. Why can't, and my thought is like, what if they're using that behind the scenes already to, using all of our data to determine who is more susceptible to being, one of these shooters, right? They can aggregate all your data, determine, and it's like, I've heard, like Facebook can predict when you're about to be in a relationship before you are, you know what I mean? Like they know everything about you. They know like what time you're going to use the restroom. They know where you're going to be a week from Tuesday because based on your past behavior, right? They have all the data to do that. So therefore, why couldn't they just like use all that data to, just basically determine, okay, this group of people right here, like these 5 people in these 5 different cities are the number one most likely to be a school shooter. And then they can direct all of their, handlers towards that person to kind of steer them in that direction. It's like, it's probably pretty easy to do at this point, right? To pick them out of the crowd.
It is, but I tell you, I mean, I really looked for these MK Ultra assets, but I don't find them. I find them in the form of the patsies that goes down for it. But it's like, if there is the real shooting, which many times there's not, if there's a real shooting, they rely on professionals. These people are professionals. They go in, they know what they're doing. They do the killing, not a problem. They're accurate with their weapons, boom. And then a patsy go down. They would be left, they're sitting looking totally drugged in the court room. I mean, I've even been contacted by a family of one of these alleged shooters that had absolutely nothing to do with it, but was somebody not well, and was being under treatment, and also with the FBI before. FBI is super important to become aware of, because when you really look into it, they are there before the crime, preparing, equipping, training, recruiting, also in total deception. People don't understand what they're signing up for. They don't understand what they're getting themselves into. And then after the so-called crime happens, they're there on the crime scene, taking care of evidence. No, they're redirecting, they're replacing the real evidence with things that will point towards the patsy. The FBI are crucial in this whole thing. And they're supposed to be in the US only. I think not. They're all over the place. They're in Sweden. After the Bali bombing here in Indonesia, who was on site within 30 minutes? People in FBI coats. Mm-hmm. The closest flight is, I think, 14 hours to get here. Within 30 minutes here, what does that tell you? And so you have to be aware of, I would say, The people we are being told are the good guys, watch out. The people that are said to be the bad boys, these are the people that you might look into. It's the same thing with things they're trying to ban, like colloidal silver. Whatever they try to ban, I look into it. I'm like, oh, thank you for pointing it out. I had no idea cinema was so good. Vitamins are vita. It means life. Maybe that's good for you. No, the things they try to ban, it's upside down. It's an inverted reality they're trying to push on us. And that's evil for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but one of the things that always stood out to me in looking at these like situations, like Charlie, I remember you mentioned I've heard on one of your shows early on talking about like, there's like 5 things to look for when you see the news media immediately jumping on one of these stories. Like, do you remember those off the top of your head? Or can you?
Yeah, it had to do with the San Bernardino shooting. And I was sitting in front of, I was sitting on the couch with my mom had come over to my house. We turned on the TV and we hadn't heard anything about it, and it was like breaking news, but and I immediately hit mute, and I just turned to my mom and I said, I don't know what's going on here, and you don't know what's going on here, right? And she goes, no. And I said, well, if I could tell I said, I'm going to tell you 5 things that are going to happen in this event right here, and if I tell you these 5 things and you are and by tomorrow I'm able to prove each one of them, will you believe that these events are not real? Or not as they're made. She goes, of course, if you can tell me. She goes, but they got to be specific. And I said, they will be. So it was like, I said, all right, whoever's involved in the shooting is going to die for sure. They're also going to leave a manifesto. The manifesto is going to be discovered by the feds. Okay. There will be conflicting early accounts, like early within the first couple hours, of a different looking person doing the shooting, typically in military fatigues or of military age, doing the shooting that looks nothing like the person. And the media will pin it on a suspect within the first 3 hours. She goes, that's pretty specific. And all of those things happened within the first day of San Bernardino. And I said, look, so she said, well, what do you think happened? And I said, I don't know exactly what happened. I just know what didn't happen. And what didn't happen is that you have a shooting and you say they left a manifesto at their apartment. And then the FBI says, we went to the apartment. It was a veritable bomb manufacturing facility. And then the next image you see is of them letting the entire media into the apartment to wander aimlessly around for 30 minutes going, hey, I found a note. Hey, I found a manifesto. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? This is the most unprofessional, unrealistic thing I've ever seen. And like after that, I remember my mom said, I will never question you about these things ever again. Like that was scary accurate. And I said, well, I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, there's been a lot of people that point these things out, and it's cumulative. And once you sort of know what to look for, you'll see these signs. And so I think that like a show like this, when you reached out, I was like, well, the goal of the show is to give everybody some kind of new thing to keep your eyes out for. You know how like if you come across a car you like, and then the next day you see an ad for that car and you're like, whoa. And then you see the car again and you're like, oh, it's just, there's something about it being in your mind. You just pick up on it easier. And I think that like I'm obviously we're all very familiar with Ole's work. Ole has done a very good job of being very specific in a way, in an industry that is, let's just say, devoid of specificity for the most part. This conspiracy thing where it's really hard to pin anything down. The thing that's been nice about Ole's work has been that you have been able to really say, look for this and look for this and look for this. And once you start looking for colors and bikes and shoes and names that sound funny, a funny thing happens. You see them everywhere, because your mind is ready to accept it. So it's important to have like these conversations. I mean, I would say period. I mean, the power of this group, I think, is nice because everything is exponential, where it will go out on all of our channels in some form and reach a lot of people. And then from there, those people, it'll be fresh in their mind. So when they see it, they see this next event, which there will be one, it has no power over them anymore because they know what it is. And that is like the most important thing that you can give someone. So I want to make sure that we, that I'm appreciative to you, Ole, of your work. And you and I've talked in Mexico, and you've been on my show, and but like you really have given people tools that have allowed them to see the world a little bit differently and take away the power from that magician. And that's a really cool trick in and of itself. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I just comment on that? I'm not sure which one of the God, what was the shooting you just
San Bernardino?
San Bernardino, because there's been multiple there. But there is one, and I think that's the one you're referring to.
The couple,
where
the husband and wife.
Exactly. Yeah. But the people first saw 3 people in military outfit. The way they described them was identical to what people in Paris saw with the shooters at the Bataclan thing that was just a few days before. So I'm saying, would it be the global tour of terror? Would it be possible you have your assets, the professional, thank you so much. We lead them out. And the way they lead them in, the reason why they are in police outfit or black outfits is because boom, 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 shooting. Oh my God. They hide behind some kind of whatever. The SWAT team comes in with the same outfit, but with helmets on. There's like maybe 8 people in the SWAT team. They go in, there were 3 shooters, and there's 11 people in SWAT team outfits going out. Where did they go? The shooters are gone. No, they're over there. The dead couple are over there. Do you see? That's why they appear in these uniforms, because out they use these uniforms. So I was strongly. So I pointed it out also. The Bataclan shooters, the ones that were real, because a lot of it was set up. There were some real shooting in one of these cafes. These people that were observed there, put on a plane, flown to San Bernardino. Once again, a community that was very, very, as far as I understood, had a bit financial, really difficult situation. And then after this shooting, it started blossoming again. If I can.
Yeah, sorry.
There
were 2 other things on San Bernardino where it was the same FBI guys. And
yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No,
it was the same FBI guys as the LAX shooting, and the people said that that they were patsies. Those were 2 things, Ole, that you were saying always look out for. And it was like the exact same FBI guy standing behind the police chief in 2 back-to-back things. And then the family also said, the lawyer even said, now I understand Sandy Hook, like these people had nothing to do with this. And I was wondering if there were some of the people who looked to you, because they clearly were patsies, and they did die, like Charlie said.
I'm really happy that people are taking it to them. I've even had people from the Swedish government, from the Swedish Minister of Defense, who contacted me after the truck attack, the alleged truck attack, that I totally blew the cover on that one, and thanked me and said, because they were locked in when this whole thing happened, the whole big parts of the government was locked in while all of these things happened. And they said, we didn't understand what was happening. Now I see, you showed me what's happening. So even on that level, they're starting, and police officers, military are also coming in and saying, now I see it. So, but what I wanted to point out is there's this question like Sandy Hook and like Uvalde, and how is it possible? Are you telling me everybody's lying? I mean, how is that possible? So I just want to refer to dear Mr. Alan Dulles, who is the director of the CIA, who is one of the real, I don't know what to call it, but not a very nice name. He and his brother, they were part of it all the way from the Second World War and onwards. And anyway, he was once in Greece together with Fletcher Prouty, who's one of my few heroes. Fletcher Prouty is the guy who worked in Pentagon, was in Black Ops during the 50s and 60s. Very skilled person, very honorable person. And then after the JFK assassination, he became one of the first whistleblowers that I learned so much from. He is the guy that is Mr. X in the Oliver Stone movie, JFK. Excellent movie. Excellent movie. I have found nothing It's the only thing with that is the truth is even bigger. But that movie, unbelievably good, in my opinion. So anyway, Fletcher Prouty, he told the story that he and Alan Dulles was in Greece once. They were driving around, and then Alan said, listen, Fletcher, do you know what that is? And he was pointing at sort of like a gated community. And Fletcher said, no, is it sort of like a resort or something? And Alan said, no, all ours. They're all ours. In Greece. Well, and Fletcher was, what do you mean? He said, grandparents, kids, people, photographers, everyone there, our assets. So they can be activated or used or whatever if we need them. If they don't, they just live a normal, beautiful, luxurious life in this area. If needed, we activate them. Boom, they go on, they do what is needed and back. Used to be's, wannabes, the whole shebang in that. And he said, we got these places all over. This was in Greece. I tell you, when you look at Sandy Hook, I would suggest that whole place is one of these communities. Every single one inside that is an asset. That also, the area with the mental institution, this horrible hospital that has even been used in horror movies and also in all kinds of weird, bizarre experiments in the 50s, 60s, or whenever that was going on, all of them. I even have a friend who has relatives in Sandy Hook who's married to one of the police officers. The whole thing is bizarre.
Ole, I work in real estate. And I have access to, as a broker, I have access to look at certain records. And I decided to pull a record search on Sandy Hook and take a look and see what I saw. And what I saw were about 15 $0 transactions in 2009, 3 years before.
Whoa.
Now, $0 transactions aren't that unusual. It could be moving something into a trust or whatever, or into a LLC. There's nothing inherently nefarious about that. The thing that was very unusual was that all of these transactions happened on Christmas Day, which there are no recording. It's a holiday. You don't record on Christmas. Those offices aren't open to record any of that. So whoever recorded those transactions for those home purchases at $0 had to be inside the system. Well, I believe had to be inside the system, because the title companies and all of the county offices needed to close and finalize and record on that day would all be closed for Christmas.
It's so crazy. And that was the one question that I wanted to get into in this particular conversation. And this is probably a good time, is so we can talk about the Aurora shooting. We can talk about Parkland. You know what I mean? We might get some weird looks, but Sandy Hook is forbidden. You cannot talk about Sandy Hook. Why is that? Is it simply because the evidence to the fact that there is something nefarious going on is so glaring, like what Charlie was describing? Is it that, or is it something bigger and deeper?
It's if they'll lie about killing kids, they'll lie about anything. That sort of thing. That's how.
But there were so many conflicting stories immediately with Sandy Hook from people who were supposedly on the ground there. There was, everything kept changing and everything kept changing. And if you raised your hand, you were immediately smacked down. And they got to take Alex Jones's head from most or all consequential social media platforms and streaming platforms as a result of it.
He's still financially as well.
Yeah. Maybe the same time Ole did. I lost all my WordPress stuff because of that.
In COVID, we saw an exact repeat of that playbook for anybody who stuck our hands up and asked questions about it. We've seen it in any matter of free speech. You see it the first people to raise their hand in the middle of a crisis and go, hey, wait a minute, hang on, I don't think that's how we're supposed to do that. Those are the people that get ran off immediately, because you're just not allowed. Asking questions is treason. Didn't you read the 2012 NDAA?
Yep. Can I comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Sandy Hook is one that I've been very involved in, one of hundreds. And Sandy Hook, I was part of publishing a book called that was released not long after that. We published a whole series of books within months of these events. This one is called No One Died at Sandy Hook or in Sandy Hook. It was published by Professor Jim Fetzer, myself, and other. There were like 8 or 10 top researchers that are in this book. It was the first book, as far as I know, that Amazon ever banned. So when that got banned, we republished it with a new cover banned by Amazon to use that. And then the book that was banned, that was stopped because we couldn't get it out. We couldn't even get it on print on demand. It was stopped. So we put it out as a PDF, and you can go to my website, lightonconspiracies.com, lightonconspiracies, plural, or Dammegard.com. By the way, Ole Dammegard, which is my weird name. I'm the only one with that name on this planet. Go to that and you'll see that the NSA has taken it over. It's a bizarre legal firm company with governmental thing. Check it out, oledammegard.com. I don't know why they stole it right in front of my eyes, but there you go. So anyway, go to the shop. In the shop, you can download it for free. Nobody Died at Sandy Hook. It's about 300-400 pages of just like going through the different, look at that. It was a FEMA drill. Absolutely nothing happened. No one died. These kids, one of them was taking a photo in the lap of Obama a few days after. They've been celebrated at the Super Bowl events, taking photos of all of them. They're still alive. We had now Vicky Soto, one of the victims. She was now one of the teachers in Uvalde. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So anyway, I want to say, when it comes to Sandy Hook and Alex Jones, I do not badmouth people easily. But I tell you, sometimes we have to watch out. And Edward Snowden was mentioned. I would say Julius Assange. I stand for this totally. The other people here have nothing to do with it. I take full responsibility. These type of people that if they even fart, it's in mainstream media. You have to ask yourself, what is going on here? Because I'm in contact with high level truth, incredible whistleblowers that are given zero chance to step forward, that are the only times when people like myself and these other ones are asked to join. I've had invitations from BBC, ITV, Granada TV, whatever. I always say no, thank you, because I know it's an ambush. Every single time they are there to destroy us. And so with Jim Fetzer and Walter Holbig, who are two of the heavyweights that have been looking into Sandy Hook big time, really going for it, these two were taken to court by Lenny Posner, one of the alleged parents of one of the alleged kids, Noah Posner, that also happened to die 2 years later, once again, this time in a mass shooting in Pakistan. Same boy, same photo, same everything, like recycling the same crap. So anyway, 4 different death certificates. Jim Fetzer was taken to court. He was sentenced for $500,000. Even though, and I told him, he was so, he said, I've got all the evidence. I'm looking forward to go to court with this whole thing. I said, it's absolutely rigged. They're going to take you down. And what happened? Boom, it was rigged and they took him down. And even Larry Posner, the father of the child, keeps changing appearance. He looks very different. And most of the time he's blacked out. So, but what they did with Alex Jones, in my opinion, Alex Jones, I used to really admire him. Absolute control of the situation. Sorry to say that. Letting out a lot of incredible information, and at the same time, boom, leading us astray away from what actually happens. So sorry about that. But Alex Jones, so why did they pick Alex Jones here? Was suddenly Alex Jones taken to court. That whole thing, in my opinion, was staged to freak the people like us out. If they can even get to Alex Jones, oh my God. No, the real people that were standing up was Professor Jim Fetzer, Walter Holbig. These were the people that went down. Alex went up there and said, okay, nobody died, and scared people like us off, saying, oh my God, if they can hit him, they can hit everyone. I think that was a whole psyop to shut us up. And
And he had his own revenue stream set up and everything. He probably makes more money not being on YouTube and being only on his own stuff. And then it gives him an excuse to take his stuff off of YouTube. I agree with you. And Edward Snowden, from like the first week, he won an Oscar. I mean,
Snowden, it's like,
Right.
it's Snowden is another guy. I mean, when you look at it, it's look from a psychological point of view. If these are psychological operations, how are you going to reach to people and say, be afraid? Anything you think or say on your cell phone, or if it's there, it can hear you, it can listen. Years before that was actually set in motion, these type of things. How can you control the whole world? You let one guy out, you pay one guy out and say all of these things and make a whistleblower. This whistleblower hiding in Russia, so the CIA can't even find him, but all of these journalists can find him. Really? I don't think so. I mean, I can track people like that down. So, and I was even in contact with some of the journalists that was set up with him to start with. It's like the whole thing, and then they're like they become movie stars, and all of that. It's a setup because we need heroes. We need heroes, so they create heroes for us as well.
if they didn't have a honeypot like Assange, they'd have to create one. So what is it? They have to have something to get whistleblowers to come to them. Someone has to be that.
But
who else could it possibly be?
Okay. Assange, I'm sorry, so many people love Assange. I mean,
I know.
WikiLeaks is sorry, but anyway, there's an incredible book by Daniel Estulin called Deconstructing WikiLeaks. If you check that one out, he goes in through the board members, the financing, the background, the history. It's like the military industrial complex are there. So what they're doing, and Assange came from a sect as a child in Australia, a very bizarre sect where he was one of the kids. Then he just disappeared from a long time, and boom, he was there. Like this whole phenomena of WikiLeaks, where I would suggest the military industrial complex understands that they need to throw us a bone here and there so that we will think, oh, look at this. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is amazing, but it's only a tiny little part of what is actually being hidden. And then we think, oh, we got a hero. We don't have to do anything because they will do it for us. And then you have the whole setup around now. He's the whole court case and poor this and poor that, while we should be focusing on what the hell is going on in the world right now, because it is serious. They're really getting at us.
They're getting us. They're getting us from every angle. That's really the problem.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a 360-degree assault. And I think that if they can get us questioning everything, questioning reality, that we're really destabilized. I mean, I know that like I get into these topics and I want to believe like good things. I want to believe that it's not all fuckery. I want to, but I don't even know who to trust anymore. You know what I mean?
Hello.
I think everybody, I like everybody in this room, everyone in this call right now, man. Let's just stick together. Just keep pumping out truth. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
We are all right. We are all right. We're in a war of propaganda. Why do they need propaganda? Because they are so few and we are so many. Why do they need this mind manipulation? Why don't they just take over and just say, all of you up in the corner, get rid of you? They don't, because it's like the Wizard of Oz. They are so few. We are now pulling the curtain saying, we see you, old guys, a handful of them. Some women that used to be women are not anymore. I don't know what they are. I mean, that's it. That's it. We are so many incredible beings. They are so few super psychos. What the hell? We shouldn't even have shows like this. It's a joke. So if you want to believe in good, look out the window. Listen to your heart. Don't turn off the screens. These are the ones that scare you. They're the ones telling you life is hell, life is horrible, there are crimes everywhere. Look at the cat. He knows the truth. He is totally relaxed and say, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm just going to
Well, my cat
on the stomach.
My cat is here to hear Ole's, you know how Ole always wraps up. Ole always wraps up with the prayer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have the cat around for the so that the cat wouldn't miss the prayer.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to
Oh,
make sure
sorry.
we're mindful of everybody's time. I know this is some of our like not first podcast of the day, so I want to kind of maybe wrap things up here as we're winding down here. But I did have one more line of questioning that I wanted to just throw out there real quick, and then want to make sure everybody gets answered or questions answered, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. But so when we look at these things too, we look at like who benefits, like who benefits the most from whatever it is we're talking about, right? And like applying like the Occam's razor thing, like the simplest solution. Okay, for example, I was working at Cabela's in 2012. Actually, I was the one that ran the 4473 federal firearms paperwork at the gun department in Cabela's when Sandy Hook happened. So I was working in the gun department when Sandy Hook happened. And literally, it just became insane. It was like the boss said unlimited overtime. I was working like 60, 70 hours a week, just doing background checks. We were selling hundreds and hundreds of guns a day. It was insane. And you see that every single time. It's like problem, reaction, solution, right? Shooting, government pulls out legislation, firearm sales go through the roof. Do you think the gun manufacturers are just the ones carrying these out? What do you guys think?
It's a really good question, because the thing is, when you look at how this is done, they play both sides. If it's a war, they play both sides. If it's a whatever it is, they play both sides because they cannot lose. And so yes, they're selling guns, and yes, they're trying to ban the guns. Same sources, same forces.
Or at the very least, they're buying stock in gun manufacturers right before events happen like that.
I don't know how you could look at something like the drug war or the opioid epidemic and not apply the exact same philosophy to guns. Or anything that you could turn to as a vice or an excuse or a wedge issue. It's always, and then behind the people who all have money in it, there's the central banks who are making all of the wheels of commerce flow at their megalomaniacal pig whims, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on, guys. Well, hey, so we're all here. So does anybody have any final thoughts or questions for Ole, or any final things that they wanted to make sure to cover while we're all here?
No, I'm just really glad we were able to have this timestamp right now where we can say this is what we have seen in the past. This is what we're looking for in the future. And this is a collaborative process, by the way. This is something in which help is welcome, So if there are people out there that are in a different region of the world and they're noticing things that they think are of interest, let it be known. Let's talk about it. Let's see what you found.
Absolutely. And then that was the other thing. I'm sorry to keep dragging it on, but Ole, do you have any predictions, any specific predictions coming up? Anything that if your evidence points to anything?
Okay, I've got two, but now they're trying to put out red herrings as well.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that they spread out on social media now. Golden Gate on the 8th of blah blah blah. So thousands of people are folks that's not the way it's made. But so it's hard to know right now because I feel they're desperate there. So, but I found pointers towards London through the London bar gay in Oslo. It's a very unusual name, an English name, and it's in the same building as the Bristol Hotel. And London is one place where it's been pointing a lot. And also you got Fields Supermarket in Denmark, where the shooting took place. That is not a Danish name either. It's an English name. So I've even been looking at London Fields, and there's actually a movie called London Fields about a woman who knows that she's going to be assassinated by one of her friends, but she doesn't know which one. I don't know if it is any connection to it, but London, I would say, and in that case, the favorite spot is Westminster Bridge or London Bridge. They recycle the whole thing. The reason for that is they use the Marriott Hotel as headquarters. You got the MI6 down the river. Very close to it, the same precinct. They often reuse the same players, the same police chiefs, same investigations, everything like that. So I would suggest if the pointers that I read are correct, then London Bridge or Westminster Bridge. That or Finland. They're aiming at Finland now to push Finland at the last step, pushing it into NATO. I mean, I'm looking almost on an hourly basis for attacks in Finland. Yet again, I've been pumping this out, and sometimes I feel maybe I should play it low key and just say it in certain places and then let them do it. And then I can say, oh, look at that. But the thing is, I think to stop it, the more we can stop it, the better. And I know I did an interview with CIA whistleblower Chip Tatum, who was George Bush Sr.'s private hitman, who was he was the commander of Pegasus, an ultra secret hit team, carrying out at least 14 assassinations. So, I mean, not an amateur at all. And anyway, he said that this type of job that we are doing is incredible, because he said the timeline they use are very tight. Something happening in Norway could be because of getting the bombings going in Syria. That is because the pipelines in the Ukraine. That is all of these things. So every time we can mess it up, it can delay this whole thing for months. So that's why I say, let's keep messing it up for them big time. And also to comment the whole thing is like, appreciate life. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Don't forget. So when somebody's trying to scare you, like boom, bang, boof, mass shooting, this, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? And it will nowadays be on the screen right in front of you. And it's problem, reaction, solution. Not in the old days, it took months for that to fall into place. Nowadays, they know that the time span, because of fluoride and computer games and too many channels to choose from, they need to grab you by the second. So it'll be right in front of your face. There will be a reporter, part of the operation, saying what happened, to an eyewitness, part of the operation, saying, well, it was horrible. There were lots of exploding heads and children without whatever limbs and a kitten that somebody stomped on. It was horrible, to get the reaction from us. Oh my God. And then the solution will be presented by someone in this conversation or at the press conference. We need to, and there it is. So you can see it, the people that are stepping forward at press conferences are the ones that did it. The people that say, we have to stand united, we will not bend over in the face of terror, are the ones who did it. The police chiefs, the FBI, whoever is doing it, if it is a false flag, which is so many times nowadays, are the ones that did it, that are controlling the whole operation. So you can just say, okay, thank you so much. That's tick that box. I know you from that one. Yep, tick. Thank you so much. Next one, step forward. Yes. And here we go again. And then start mapping it, and then start pushing these people and put them personally responsible for what they're doing, including actors like Matthew and Will and Chris Rock and all of these things. Shame on you. Mm-hmm. This is not funny, Matthew. I know that you can't, duping the line and this whole thing. What you are doing is a direct attack on humanity. You are part of something really evil. I don't care if you're going to get an Oscar for some crap role that you are going to perform in the next whatever. Because of that, thank you, loyalty. No, it's so not okay. So shape up. That's what I say.
Amen. Right on, guys. Right on. Well, let's wrap this up, you guys. So, Ole, why don't you start? Tell the folks how they can follow and support you.
But what about the prayer?
Oh, the prayer. Give us the prayer. I'm sorry.
I'll end with the prayer. If you want to support me, it is extremely appreciated, especially financially, because I'm being shut down every place now. Even at the Patreon shut me down. Patreon, come on, that's supposed to be a platform that is safe. No, they contacted me and said, we want you to take away these things from your website, not from my Patreon channel, from my website. And it was my recorded testimonial to the Corona Investigative Committee with Rainer Fulmish.
They did it with Whitney Webb too.
Yeah, and Ryan Christian.
That's why we don't have a Patreon.
Subscribe.
Anyway, so that was a major part of our income, and so a hard one to swallow. But thanks to my sweetheart, we did like this to them and said, "Fuck off! This is not okay. Get a life. Stop messing on people." And then, so if you want to finance me or support me, please go to my website, lightonconspiracies.com or Dammegard.com. Not all the Dammegard.com, but please check it out. It's quite funny. The oledammegard.com one. And my monthly newsletter where I point these things out in extreme detail, what I find, what I predict. And this is where you can go through the archives. You can see 64 times. That's when I said it. That's when it happened. That's when I said it. That's when it happened. And so on. And also this, I really would like to say this research vault that I have on external hard drives, but also online. It's almost 5 terabytes. It's perfectly systematically ordered. Whatever case in the thousands, it's there. Documents, photos, videos, you name it, maps, all of it, whatever you want to find. That's why it's very hard to pinpoint me where I've said something that was not correct, because whatever case, give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm on it, So, that is one I really would like to get these out in the world, especially on external hard drives, so that they're out there, bury them, save them, because this is for generations to come as well. It comes with a price tag, but please understand, it's my life's work that is in that. If you're interested, info@lightonconspiracies.com. And books, I've got multiple books. Thank you so much, Monica, for getting all the way through this brick of a book or 2 books.
But it was long, and it was, I read it right away as soon as you put it out, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's thick. It's not for wimps, but it's good.
It's not for wimps, but many people have put their life, they died for that information to get out there. So it's like, it's hardcore. Anyway, so I would say, be brave. This is not a time for wimps. There's native tribes that says that we, the souls that are down here now at this time, are the strongest of the strong. Here we fought our way to come down and experience this incredible, horrible, challenging, wonderful, amazing time to evolve. So this is not a time to say, oh, I don't want to. You bought the ticket. You are here. We are here. So let's make ourselves proud of ourselves. And I've even got made t-shirts, stop whining, start shining. This is it. This is the time. So be brave, stand in truth. If you're confused, it's very easy. Turn it upside down. They are trying to present an inverted reality on you. What they say is good is bad. What they say is bad is actually good. It's super simple. And then the real truth is in your heart. Stop listening to this. Try and listen to your heart. The voice is a bit more quiet, but it's very easy. We've got it in us. Don't kick that baby. Not good. Be generous. Good. You get the feeling. That's it. Super simple. Don't steal. Don't kill. Don't take somebody else's spouse. Treat people with respect, especially the elderly that have been along here, that's been here for longer than you. Listen to them. Maybe they have some wise words to tell us, and that's it.
I think don't kick the baby should go on a shirt too, Ole.
Don't kick the baby.
Some people enjoy it, but they're often messed up. They're often messed up beforehand. There's something underneath that. Once they start listening to their heart, if they're not super psychos, and you can't blame the super psychos because they're born like that. Sociopaths, different one. We can help them, but psychos, they're out of the reach of help. So the prayer, it goes like this. May the entire world be filled with peace and joy, love and light. That is the entire world, every single square inch, centimeters, whatever you want to call it, of this beautiful matrix be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness. So victory to that light. And then I want to say, what did he just say? Am I supposed to think that the bastards should be filled with peace and joy? They should hang on a street level, lynch them. On a higher level, on a spiritual level, you will see that these ones, without these absolute super assholes, we would not meet. We would not learn. We would not be in this situation. It's actually on a spiritual level. It's like, how thick are you? What do we do? What do we have to do for you to understand what is going on? And we're like, well, please repeat the theme 1,000 times again. Can you say it again? Okay, so this is, and then, I mean, they even have an IQ test called these injections. So people that are not very clever take it, and people that are saying, I can feel the difference between hot and cold water. I think I would question that, it's like an IQ test. So we're being repeatedly asked, wake up, wake up, wake up. That is the name of the game now. It's indirectly helping us. So stop being a victim, take the power back, become brave, let go of fear. Fear is an incredible thing because it's only in your mind and it's always connected to something that has not yet happened. It's an illusion. It's always connected to the fear, to the future. So it's a waste of life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In the battle of good versus evil, it brings out the greatest of evil, but it also brings out the greatest of good. Absolutely. Monica, how can we listen or follow and support you?
Oh, thank you so much. And I love that white pill. I sometimes feel guilty, like I don't worry constantly. And I'm like, I'm going to kill myself if I worry constantly. Like I just have to sit outside once in a while with a cup of coffee or margarita and just like, life is good. It's like the first word of the Bible. Like, life is good. It's good. He created heaven and earth. It's good. So thank you for that. You can hear my stuff. The best place to do it is Deep Dives with Monica Perez on your favorite podcasting platform. And you can talk to me on Twitter at Monica Perez Show.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, Steve, how can we listen and follow and support you?
Heck yeah. AM Wake Up over on rockfin.com/AM Wake Up. Slow News Day is basically everywhere. All the social media apps are at Slow News Day Show. Oli, I would love a chance to have a conversation with you on either one of those sometime. Hopefully we can exchange email addresses or something. Scott, you're awesome. Thank you for putting this together. Monica and Charlie, you guys are the shit. I can't wait to kick it again soon. Come out to Vegas. Our show's gonna be nuts this week. We're gonna be live at Freedom Fest from like Wednesday to Saturday, I think. Hopefully pulling a bunch of those people into the studio if we can. Well-mannered frivolity will abound.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can vouch for that. Steve is a good hang out in Las Vegas. I got to hang out with Steve for a couple of days earlier this summer. So Steve, thank you again so much, man. All right, Charlie, thank you again for helping put this together.
Yeah.
I couldn't do this without you, so I really appreciate that.
It was a great idea whose time had come because I really think it's important. It's false flag season.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got to pick out our outfits for this year.
Yep.
So I thought it was good to get the team together for a little just to talk about what we're looking at. So if you're interested in my brand of insanity, you can find Macroaggressions in video format on band.video, Rockfin, Odyssey, and David Icke's platform Iconic. You can catch the audio version of Macroaggressions wherever podcasts are served. You can also you can hear The Union of the Unwanted, a great show that we put together and do Monday nights. And that is available as a podcast as well as Day Zero, which is a fun one that I do with Lindsay Sharman and Corey Hughes and X Cubed. So follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions. Thank you all. Appreciate you. And thanks for making this happen, Scott. Great idea. Thank you, Ole, for coordinating your international life around our crazy schedule. So
yeah. That's
I
awesome.
just want to say I'll be most happy to come on any of your shows, of course, anytime.
Cool. Thank you, Ole.